Hi guys. So for our guided reading group today, we're going to be reading The Good Dog. So if you need to pause the video for a second to go get the book, that's okay. It's the one that looks like this. If you've read this book before, I apologize, but that's okay. We've been away from group for a while, and this is a new way of doing things, so it's still good practice. Or you may have read some other books about Orson and Taco. All right. So I want to start off just by thinking about what I know about Orson and Taco. So take a second and think. Maybe you've read some other books about them. And if you haven't, you can flip to the title page. Okay, so I know that Orson is a big dog. I remember I read a story where he was afraid of a storm, but overall he's pretty sweet and he tries to be a good boy. And Taco is a little puppy and he can be a little bit fresh. I've read about him chewing things up and digging up the rose bush before. And this story is going to be all about Orson, and it's called The Good Dog. So take a second and think, what would make a dog a good dog? What types of things would a good dog do? I'm thinking if you have a good dog, they're well trained. So if you tell them to sit, they would listen, or if you tell them to come, or lay down. My dogs will, they'll give paw or shake hands or high five. Some people teach their dog to play dead or to roll over. Okay, basically a good dog listens and does tricks and is nice, doesn't bark too much. Those are all the things that, to me, would make a good dog. So when I see that the title of the book is The Good Dog, I'm thinking that that might be the case. But then I look at the cover, and I'm a little bit confused because it looks like Orson's muddy and knocked over a plant. So we're going to be reading to find out if Orson is a good dog or not, and, you know, how Jack feels about Orson. Before we read, I want to point something out to you from the book. Okay, and on each page, Jack is talking to Orson. He's telling Orson what to do. He's giving him a command. And the words that Jack is saying, and we'll look for some in the book, are all inside of quotation marks. Remember we said quotation marks show dialogue. They show you that somebody's talking. So this sentence says, Mrs. Costa said, nice work. That would mean if you wanted to know which words I said, nice work, because they're inside the quotation marks. Sometimes the quotation comes at the beginning of the sentence. So this one says, you have detention, said Dr. Huber. If I want to know which words he said, I'm going to look for the quotation marks at the beginning and at the end. And the words that are in between them are the words that came out of his mouth, the words that he said. You have detention. And that can help me read fluently. If I pay attention to the words that somebody said, instead of reading it like this, you have detention, said Dr. Huber, I can read it like he would say it. You have detention, said Dr. Huber. So we're going to be looking for those quotation marks while we read to help us be a little bit more fluent. So I want you to open up your book. We looked at the title page. So look at page 2 and put 2 fingers on the quotation marks. So there's quotation marks to start and end. And that sentence says, Jack said, sit, Orson. So the words that Jack said are sit, Orson. And Orson was a good dog, so he sat. So it says, Jack said, sit, Orson. Orson was a good dog. He sat. Look at the picture. In this story, the words are going to tell you one thing, and the picture is going to tell you another thing. So Orson listened to Jack, and he sat, but notice what happened in the picture. He knocked over the plant. So instead of saying, good boy, Jack's speech bubble says, oh no. I wonder what he's thinking. So now I want you to turn to page 4 and 5 and look at what's going on in the picture. It's something a little bit naughty. And you can see that Orson's on a leash. And he just looks like he's walking. He's not trying to do anything. And again, Jack's saying, oh no. So if he's wearing a leash, Jack would be taking Orson for a walk. Find the word walk on page 4. Walk's going to start with a W. W-A-L-K. It's on the page 2 different times. The word walk. You can't sound that word out. You just have to remember that one. And use your picture clues. Okay. So then Jack tells Orson to come. And then if you look on page 8, this was one of the things that I said a dog might do. Okay. And what is Orson doing? He's rolling over. Orson, roll over, but this time he's crushing the flowers. And if you turn to page 10, my dogs give one paw or the other paw like a high five. But Jack asked Orson to sit up and beg. When a dog begs, they put their paws in the air like they really want something. So that's what he asked Orson to do. Now, on page 16, everything changes a little bit. So Jack says it's time for a nap, and he calls Orson a good boy. Now, without reading that whole page, I want you to remember that. And I want you to think about what's happening in the whole story as you read. And then I want you to think, after everything that happened, why did Jack call Orson a good boy? Okay? So you, either by yourself or with your grown-up at home, are going to go back to page 2. You're going to use your finger to point to each word and read. I want you to try and look for those quotation marks to help you read fluently. And when you're done, you'll see your options to respond to the question, why does Jack call Orson a good dog at the end? And that's what you're going to be thinking about while you're reading. Okay? I look forward to seeing your responses.